This week's conversation with Ilene Nebrasky of the Stitch Sloth is sponsored by the Embroiderers Guild of America. November 12, the first day of the EGA 2025 National Seminar, may seem like a long way off, but we all know how time flies. Registration is open now but closes August 15. Visit egausa.org for all of the details. One of the most exciting new things at the National Seminar is the Sampler University Weekend, November 15 and 16, which is open to EGA members and non-members. It will feature a sampler sewing roll by Becky Noland of Lucy Beam and the outstanding Isabella Kettlewell 1818 sampler reproduced and taught by Sylvia Stecker of Running with Needles and Scissors. Sylvia will be teaching the sampler and how to make smalls from the design. Beth and I have advanced copies of the sampler and will be stitching it in the coming weeks and doing our own versions of smalls from the various motifs. Watch for our upcoming videos. Visit egausa.org for all of the details. Thanks to EGA for sponsoring the show, and now our conversation with Ilene Nebrasky of Stitch Sloth. Welcome back. I'm Gary Parr.
And I'm Cindy Baldwin.
And you're listening to Fiber Talk, the twice-weekly podcast for the needlework artists. And our artist this week from Stitch Sloth, Ilene Nebrasky. Ilene, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Gary and Cindy.
Oh, we're glad to talk about this. So this is Stitch Sloth is a new online community that Ilene has started, and we'll get into the details about that. And that's the reason for this show, is we want to share with our listeners. This is pretty cool. It's quite a little system for tracking your projects and threads and all kinds of things. So we'll get into that. But are you a needle pointer? Is that your start?
So yes, I am a needle pointer. I was exposed to needlepoint as a child. My mom had a very good friend who was an avid needle pointer, and her sister-in-law was a needlepoint canvas designer back a long time ago. And so I started needle pointing, and I did a lot of different crafts, like rug hooking when I was a kid, and needle pointing. Did not get back into needlepoint until I became an empty nester. Where I was looking for a creative outlet. And I always was very, very crafty. I love to paint. I've taken painting classes and oil, and I love to cricket. And over the years, I've gotten into all different types of, crafting type hobbies. And one day my friend was sitting there, and my son had just left for college, and she's, it's like 7 years ago already, and she's knitting. And I'm like, oh, I hate knitting. But I wish I could, I've tried a couple of times. So I wanted to have something. Wow, I love that you could carry that around with you in a bag and bring it wherever you go. And that is where my stitching began again as an adult.
Yeah. So the normal path, you start doing it, raise kids, then do it again. Yeah.
Pretty much. That's what I've heard. Yeah.
A lot to be said for empty nesting too, by the way.
Yes.
You
kind of get used. You get used to it.
Yeah. Stuff is where you left it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
A lot of good to that. Yeah.
You don't have somebody grabbing your scissors to cut paper.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I still do have my husband, remember.
Well, there is that. Yeah.
Now, he should be trainable.
I think at this point, 34 years in, I'm not so sure, but it's okay. He goes along, he's used to it already.
So has it always been painted canvas, or have you tried other techniques?
So I only do painted canvas. The reason that for me, painted canvas, like I said on my website, my intro talks about a serendipitous walk into a needlepoint store. And when I had decided to needlepoint, I walked into, in Vero Beach, Florida, and I walked into the local store. And to me, it was like walking into my personal heaven. It was just the colors, the threads, and all of the canvas designs. So for me, it is just painted canvas. I do have a history of painting and art. So painting my own canvases, it kind of seems like too much work to have to generate an idea at this point in time. And to be quite honest, I know you're both counted stitchers, and I just find that to be so stress inducing just thinking about it. The same way that knitting was for me, knitting, I just, it feels like it would be a lot of thinking and work when I just want to relax.
Yeah. Well, those knitters, veteran knitters who can sit there, watch TV, carry on a conversation, and knit a scarf and never flinch. I have no interest, but it blows me away that they can do that. I mean, they just go like little machines. It's amazing to me.
Yes, yes, yeah. I agree. And that's how I feel about painted canvas. I love there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of choices out there. Yeah. Yeah. And you could kind of pick what your style is, and it's very appealing to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting that counted as stress inducing, but painted isn't. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah.
I guess because you really have to pay attention to your design and your counting, and like with, I guess I don't know. What I really can't say because I haven't tried it. So perhaps if someone is willing to give me a lesson, I might end up really loving it.
Give us a call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either one of us. We're in.
Actually, I find painted canvas a little more stressful because I have several, but I have no trouble finding threads, but picking stitches, because there's so many different kinds of stitches out there. And it is a real art to picking the right stitch and the right thread to really showcase the artwork of the canvas.
I think that's what I love about it.
That a little bit more.
Yeah, it's that creativity of picking those stitches and looking through the books and seeing what might fit. I mean, I do a bit of frogging, right? You start with one stitch and you're like, oh, this isn't going to fit. You have to get rid of it, but I do like that.
Okay, there's the artist. See the artist. Yeah, that becomes your paint. Yeah, yes. I can see that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can.
So, yeah. So do you, are you, somebody give me, what is the thing where they tell you all the stitches and what to do?
Stitch guide.
Stitch guide. Do you do the stitch guide, or do you just prefer to do your own thing?
I've done a couple of projects that came with stitch guides. I generally don't use a stitch guide. It's really nice and easy when you do use a stitch guide. I think it's great for learning new stitches. I just did a piece in an acrylic box that I got all as one kit, and it was all different types of stitches that I had never tried before. So I absolutely loved following that and creating that piece that gave me the opportunity to try things that I hadn't. Part of the reason that Stitch Sloth kind of came about was because of my love for the different stitches. And I'm talking about this piece and I'm thinking to myself, I would have to go back into that stitch guide to look over those stitches again, because the stitches just don't stick in your memory because there's just so many.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that means we're going to have to do another show where you take us through the mental process of picking stitches for one of your pieces.
All right. I'm in.
I'd be interested in seeing that, because I don't get excited about painted canvases. I've done some, just don't get excited about them. But and I've said this a billion times, people who are good at it and can bring a piece to life it's incredibly impressive. I mean, all you had to do is look through Needlepoint Nation, and you'll get a good handful of them that really are at the next level. I mean, you get a lot that are all in this kind of range, but then one will pop up and you go, wow, that person really saw the threads and the colors and the textures and made it work. And I mean, that's just impressive work when that happens. It really is.
Absolutely. And that is where I still feel that needlepoint and knitting and any kind of needle art is such a long-term craft. It's like bridge, right? People say you could play bridge your whole life, but you always learn something new. And I feel that about needlepoint. I feel like I could look at someone's canvas and say, oh, I'm scared of beadwork. I've tried it and I just never seem to get it right. But that's because I wasn't properly taught. I'm just trying to do it on my own. But I have one customer in Stitch Sloth who is actually, I have a customer of the month, the member of the month this month, and she did this fur coat. A woman with a fur coat, and it looks like a fur coat. It is absolutely fascinating how you could do that.
Yeah, and that's the people. Those are the people that to get in a room and pick their brains would be so much fun. How did you see that, and how did you execute that so it looks like it should? Yeah. Yeah, it's a real talent. Yep, and I'm sure a real talent and a ton of frogging and a ton of different canvases and all of those things, like everything else. The more you
Right.
Was it 1,000 hours to get really good or something like that? I forget what it is. 10,000 hours, whatever. Yeah,
it's a lot of hours.
Is it 1,000?
I don't know.
No, I think it's 10,000.
10,000.
But even then, like you say, you have to be willing to take out something if you don't like it. You don't like the color, the stitch is too big or too small, or you got a bead in there wonky or whatever. You have to be willing to take it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Try it again. So that's another interesting thing for like that fur coat. How many different things did she try?
I don't know.
Or did that just come to her brain and it worked?
Right. I think she said she used turkey work for that, if I recall. So some kind of a cutting method. Yeah, really amazing.
Yeah, well, that would be, I mean, I would expect that's what she would use, but there's executing turkey work.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't look like chopped off threads as opposed to fur. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's it. It's picking the right fiber too to properly make it look the way that it's supposed to.
Yeah. All right, Stitch Sloth.
Yes.
Now it strikes me that you have kind of a organizational disease. You can't help it.
My family would agree. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, the funny thing is, as a young teen, no. But as my adulthood moved on, I was a teacher. I'm a trained teacher by trade. That was my first profession. And then I raised my kids and I went into event planning, stationery, and invitations. And you have to be extremely organized in order to help execute someone's event properly. And as life took me through, I became extremely organized. So with my needlepoint, here you are with thousands of different fibers as you get into the project and stitching. And I had to kind of work around ways in which to organize my own threads and my canvases. And also, I really had a true affinity for learning what stitches I use, like remembering what I used, what worked. And like we were saying before, the proper stitches to use for water or for a sky or for a building or a road or whatever or a lady's dress, whatever you're stitching. So I would look at projects that I did in the past and I would say, oh, that stitch would work for this, but what was that? Because I have 100 stitch books. So you start looking through and you can't find them. So then I started kind of writing down on paper everywhere. In books, I would write down the project, what color fibers I use, because then I was finding, I don't know what color that was, and that would be the perfect blue for my ocean. So I just sort of wrote notes down everywhere in books and on papers, and then I started thinking to myself, I really need to find, there must be some app or needlepoint website. There's got to be something out there. So I started looking and searching, and it sort of started with this obsession to want to be more organized for myself, so I can go back and look at what stitches I did on my canvas. Like I have a couple of canvases behind me that I've done and have some interesting stitches. And one in particular, I remember just looking at that picture thinking, like, what is that stitch? So that is sort of where I started looking for this organizational tool for needlepoint and could not find it anywhere. Nothing. There's, some very basic ones out there for cross stitch, nothing great. There's obviously a few sites for knitting, which honestly, there's that huge one. I did not even know about it until I was already on my journey to creating Stitch Sloth, and there was nothing for needlepoint, nothing for thread organization or inventory, and that's kind of where it sort of started to develop. Do you want me to continue to go on?
Oh, we're catching it all.
Yeah.
All right, let's
Okay.
where does Stitch Sloth come from? Because that
So,
give
well,
you credit on that. That's creative.
okay. So first was the business plan, and another thing that I found really discouraging for me is this one particular project. I was doing a Colors of Praise monkeys pillow that I was going to make. And I wanted to see how other people stitched this, because this project had so many colors and so much intricacy to it that I really didn't know where to go on certain things. And I started combing all of my Facebook groups that I belong to, Grand Millennial, Needlepoint Nation, all of the big ones. And I would put in and search monkeys. Nothing would ever come up. I would never find the project, nothing. And then it was the same kind of journey. Everybody loves a sale, right? We all know needle arts are expensive. And I definitely have a canvas buying addiction. I see something I like and I just have to have it. I have to stitch that. You don't have enough time to stitch them all. So I love to find trunk shows for my favorite artists, and combing the web for that kind of stuff was also difficult. So I was like, maybe I could sort of coordinate my love of organization of my projects in with also these resources for other people. And wrote the business plan, decided I am doing this. I had shut down my other business about 5 years prior, right before COVID. And I said, I'm going to just do this. I have some website experience and not personal developing experience, but I had a stationary invitation website for about 10 years, which I learned how to manage. And so that's my experience in that website management part. But Stitch Sloth kind of came from my son and I sitting around brainstorming. I even put out a survey monkey to my friends and family, who I really didn't tell what I was doing. I didn't even tell my husband at first. I really wanted to have all of the details sewn down in my head because I didn't want anyone to discourage me. I was so sure that this was the path that I was meant to go on at this point in my life, was to do this needlepoint art that I just love so much.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, And Stitch Sloth came from using the word stitch. We tried, many other needlepoint inspired words. I originally wanted it to be needleminder.com, but that was taken. And Sloth I've always loved sloths. There's this adorable movie called Zootopia. And I still to this day with my daughters, we laugh about the sloth scene and their slowness and the methodical Zen-like nature of a sloth. And it just kind of came to be that it was perfect. It's memorable, it's cute, and it has great meaning for needle arts.
Oh, it's a fun name. Yeah. Excellent.
Thanks.
Yeah, it is.
No, that's really fun.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when you go to set this up, is it a flow chart on the wall where I have all these elements and try to connect them, or do you start out with some basics and then evolve from that? How does one go about setting? Because there's a bit of complexity to this thing to have all the components.
Yes, and I am a one-woman show, really. Like this was just so. Yes, basically a very sort of thought out, detailed. What I need to do first, what I want to accomplish here, and what do I want to have in this site. And it was basically like a lot of sticky notes and flow charts, and sort of developed into like my speaking before about stitches and looking on social media to find other people who have done the same projects as mine. I said, kind of, wouldn't it be fun to just have a social media component? And I have to be honest, I have a love-hate relationship with social media.
We all do.
Yeah.
Right. I love what
No.
right. I love what I could find on it. And I wanted to just develop this tool that someone could put their project in and then show it so other people can see what they did. And then from that, it was like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to make all of the details that they add to their project public for the other users, which is also why we, have it set up the way that it is, so that people can actually just go to the site and type in monkey, and anything that someone has tagged monkey is going to come up, and you'll just see everything related. And then if it's a project, you could click on it. So I really thought all of that out. And then the real challenge was finding someone who can execute this the way that my brain was actually thinking it.
Yeah. We should probably establish here. So stitchsloth.com. Say that 5 times fast.
It's impossible.
It's a subscription username, password, sign-in system where you can track, you can put in your projects, your threads. Take us through what it offers people and what they get, and then your painted canvas, and that's its orientation. But just going through it already, people are putting in other techniques, other stitching, so it's not limited to just painted canvas.
No.
There was an embroidery one in there I saw, and there's some counted canvas, so it's not limited to that. But take us through just the nuts and bolts. What does it offer to people?
Okay, so it is a signed-in platform, like any other platform, social media, or any platform that is going to require you to put in your own personal content, right? We have to differentiate me from Gary, from Cindy. Everybody needs to have their own personal account. So that's why you have to go in and sign up. Now we have 2 plans. We have your basic plan, and then we have the advanced plan. So you can participate in Stitch Sloth in the looking, the searching, and all of the resources are pretty much available to the free user. Even the free user needs to log in because they can save things, like things. You could bookmark things. So if I see something that I like and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that canvas, you could save it. So everyone needs a username and a password. It's like anything else, Pinterest, Etsy, anything. You need a username and password. The advanced, the paid portion is, and I just really want to be clear, why is this paid? Well, there are a number of paid needlepoint Substacks and blogs, and it's people are offering their expertise, and I think people have always had the right to be paid for their expertise. So mine isn't really the expertise of needlepoint. It is giving you, you could go out to the needlepoint store and spend $70 on a paper journal that might do the same thing as Stitch Sloth, but it will cost you $70 for every time that you finish that book. And you might finish, I sometimes can finish 12 needlepoint projects in 2 months. So that's a lot of money of journaling if you're doing smaller projects. So what I would say is this is an unlimited service. Unlimited. I probably have like 40 projects in my project notebook. The paid users can pay monthly and 6-month or a yearly subscription. Yearly obviously is your best choice. Right now, those people get this unlimited project management tool. The project management tool tracks your project name, and then you can add a description if you wish. You can add tags. The tags actually help the community find what the other users are looking for. So it's always really great to tag your projects. And then from the tags, you can put in your fibers. It's very user friendly. You put in also, it's very intuitive, self-populating. So it asks for manufacturer, then it asks for the collection. If you're using all one fiber, let's say Tilly Thomas Essentials is your jam, and you click the lock button on Tilly Thomas, then you pick Essentials on the collection. You could lock that in place. Then you just have to put the color. Once you start typing, even the T for Tilly Thomas, that's going to come up, and then you just click on it. Then the next collection, all the Tilly Thomases are sort of there waiting for you. So you click an E, Essentials comes up, you click that, lock them in place. Then you go into the fiber colors, and you start, let's say you're doing hot pink, and or a number. They have numbers and names attached to them. A lot of fibers go by one, the other, or both. So, like Essentials has one brown one called Otter. So you start typing in OT, Otter, 391. It comes right up, click on that, and then you add it to your project. The people who are advanced users who have paid, they can then click add to inventory. It seamlessly goes now from this project right into your inventory. The next step is your stitches. Again, very self-populating, intuitive system. I preloaded in about 1,000 stitches. Not only is it intuitive in that way, but let's say Cindy has a stitch that is not in the system, and she starts typing crystal goat, and she, and she types it in. It'll say add to, add to whatever it says, and she'll click that. Now I go in and I'm using crystal goat. It's already in there for me. So not only was the system pre-populated, it gets smarter as we have more users in there.
Yeah.
And then you get to the next step, and these are all things that the advanced users get. The other thing that the advanced users get is the ability to see everyone else's project details. So we have quick posts, which is just you want to ask a question, kind of like an Instagram, a Facebook question on one of your groups. or you just want to show something you're doing, or say, hey, what stitch should I use for this, or something like that. Um, then they get, so the advanced users have the ability, though, to click on the project and see
Yeah.
everything that I put into my project, including my, details, where I finished it, when I sent it out. I mean, it's very detailed.
Talk about the privacy part of that. If I don't want somebody to see a project because it's a Christmas gift or something,
Yeah.
I can still put that in there but hide
Yes.
it, so I
Yes.
control what people see and don't see.
Yes. So, what many people do, actually, I have one customer, she must have 150 projects and canvases in
Sounds like you,
her
Cindy.
in her in her account. And so you have the project status is one of the first steps on the first page, and you could actually go into your stash and take a picture of every single canvas that you have, and you could just put them into your stash. And then when you could click down to the last step, which is save or post, and it gives you the option to save, I'm keeping this one to myself, or save and post. So if you save and post, then it goes onto the community board. Like I said, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I have never been one to be posting and questioning, and so I might be the type of user who would never post something. Obviously I do, because I love Stitch Sloth, and I think it's a great tool, so I feel really comfortable doing it.
Yeah. Now, people will say, well, all right, I can do that. I can post pictures of my work on Needlepoint Nation for free.
Yes.
Yeah, you can, but you can't
Yes.
have all the other stuff. And to me, there's two powerful things that I saw in Stitch Sloth. One is tracking all of my threads and all my canvases, and the
Yes.
other is the community aspect, which we'll get to later. But when it comes to putting my canvases and my threads and my stitches in there, the power of that to me is now I've got a place where it's all logged. If I'm at a local needlework store, I
Yes.
I know what I own, or I know what stitch I'm doing, and I can better gauge how many skeins of whatever I might need to buy. To me, that's beyond Needlepoint Nation. You can't do that in Needlepoint Nation or Facebook or
Right.
Instagram or whatever. So now I have a tool with me without bringing in 4 sheets of notes that allows me to shop effectively and not end up with 20 skeins of something that I already had 3 of.
Yes, and even with the inventory system, I built that so you can create a shopping list for yourself. So I am a regular at Seaside Needlepoint in Vero Beach, and I go in there and I'll buy a canvas, but maybe I don't have the time to kit the canvas. And I'll also kind of want to go home and see what do I have in my stash? I have lots. So I'll go home, sort of pull what I have. And now I could go into my inventory and say, oh, I don't have that black anymore. I need more of this. And I can click right in my inventory into the shopping list on Stitch Sloth. I can also add directly into the inventory and then add that to my Stitch Sloth of what I need or want. And I can also email it directly to Seaside if I wanted to and say, hey, ladies, I'm coming in at 2:00 today. Would you mind pulling these fibers for me? I only have like 5 minutes of time today. And, it's for the Pittsburgh canvas that I bought, and da 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 da. So I think that really is a time saving, um, deal breaker for some who don't necessarily, they work. It'd be great to stop off on your way home and just have your fibers waiting for you.
Well, and think what that
So,
kind of a thing does for a shop too, where you're not
Yes.
standing there waiting. Hurry up, I got to go.
Yes.
Yeah, that gives them
right.
some time to pull. And Cindy, I cut you off. Go ahead.
That's okay. One of the things that I liked was that you can, uh, most things, most programs like this that track inventory only let you put in one full whatever, or, a full skein,
Yes.
let's say, but you can do partial skeins on Stitch
Yes.
Sloth, which
Yes.
is nice because then, I can say, well, I've only got half a skein of this, which means I'm going to need more if I want to use it for this project.
Correct. And also, a lot of times you could go back into your project. So now I'm finished with my project. And before I actually post it to the board or just put my finished item in my, if I'm not posting it, but saving it for myself, I can adjust. So every fiber that is in my section, I can adjust the quantity and then it can adjust in my inventory. Now, at the time, we were having a really hard time, full disclosure, it's a really complicated system, the inventory system. This site was a year in the making, and we finally launched with it the way that it was working, the one way from the project to the inventory system. But in about hopefully a week to 2 weeks time, you will be able to, sit on your bed and if you want, put in your entire fiber, stash into the inventory system. Um, I mean, I know I'm super organized. Mine are by manufacturer, collection, whatnot. We could do a whole show just in my needlepoint closet organization. Um, I
There it is. There's the title. There's the title for the next show. Eileen's Closet. Look out.
There you go.
Exactly. It is. Another benefit of becoming an empty nester, you have a lot of closets that you
Right.
could fill in. I now have a needlepoint closet. So, but you'll be able to put your entire stash in, and then there'll be a drop down with your projects. And say you have all of your canvases from your stash in there, you can pick the canvas that you're working on and you can take the fibers from the inventory and just put them right into that project. So it will work both ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the mathematic part that's a little tricky with the developers, getting it to add and subtract both ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Now, see, I'm
Right.
seeing in this situation, there's the online community, but I'm seeing some power if I'm with a needlework friend or two where you're having a back and forth about how to stitch a canvas. You can pull that up and there it is on a tablet or whatever. This is what I'm trying to do.
Yes.
Can you think of a stitch? Does this color look good to you? I'm not so sure about it. There's some just one-on-one interaction that this allows you to do that without hauling all your threads and your canvas and everything else.
Yes, and also we have to remember, I think there's only maybe close to 300 needlepoint stores. There's a lot of, cross stitch stores and places that you could buy fibers and threads, but a lot of people are in a needlepoint desert where they're not near a local store and they pull their resources from different places. So one source might have phenomenal canvases from a designer they love, and then they get that canvas, but maybe they love pepper pot silk and they don't have that. You could actually sort of send a picture to a needlepoint store also on the site. So everything is connected. We have a Vibrant LNS finder on there, which, I don't know if we'll get to those tools as well, but aside from this whole being able to pull things up right there and right in the needlepoint store and at Stitch Club, there's tons of Stitch Clubs that are happening these days, and
Yeah.
to be able to say, "Hey, what do you think of this?" It's all
Yeah.
right there.
Yep. No, powerful. So the social media aspect then. So you can choose to show your projects, and there's a whole place there for interaction. So people can
Yes.
comment, share, you can ask for help, so on and so forth. And as that grows, of course, any social media interaction on a single topic, as that grows, that gets more powerful each time.
Yes. Yes. And I have found it so great that, like Cindy, your stuff is just spectacular that you have posted in there. And I really, have said I have no experience with that. And I just love looking at it and the detail and the colors. And I look at it and say, oh, I could never do that, but I can so appreciate it. And I love the fact that people can ask questions, and it's just an environment where everybody is there in one place. And going back to why it's a paid community for these tools, not only because it is an amazing tool, and obviously there's a lot of operating costs involved in the tool. However, everywhere I go today, everywhere on social media, anything is just advertisement after advertisement after advertisement.
Yep.
Even on Facebook, I used to scroll and all of my needlepoint groups would come up, and now it's like 5 ads for one post. I hardly see anything anymore as far as the post. So this is a place that you can go and just see stitching, like walking into a needlepoint store, right?
Yeah.
Seeing all of that beautiful color.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's, there's so much in there because, people say, well, on Facebook, I get it for free. Well,
Right.
you don't get all the functionality, number one, but it also isn't free. Your name is now spread out everywhere because, trust me, Mark Zuckerberg is using your name and your information and what you see on his site to sell to everybody. So it's not free.
Sure.
And you get
Sure, it's
values
not
with
free.
those ads. And you're not paying a monthly fee, but
Yeah.
you've given up your privacy and you accept
Yes.
that. But I think people forget that. And then there are just some raw, real costs to doing a system like this. There's server costs. There's
Yes.
somebody to update the software and keep it working, so on and so
programmer.
forth.
Yeah.
Yes.
All of that. I mean, I experienced that with Fiber Talk. I mean, hours and hours and hours of work
Yes.
that go in, even to prepare for these interviews, to process them, to post them. All of those things cost real money. And at some point, you can't just keep doing it out of your pocket. And but then the value that people get out of it without an ad, because, geez, I tried in Facebook here recently. Every time an ad comes up, I've tried blocking them, or I don't want to see anymore, or these clickbait things that I just block and block and block. It's a
Yep.
waste of time.
Doesn't
It's
work.
It's an absolute waste of time because I think I've actually made it worse.
I think you might have.
Yeah.
I've tried to do that too. I've tried to get rid of the ads, and the more I get rid of them, the more that come.
Yeah.
And talking about, spending money, you see something, especially if you like to shop, like, most people do like to shop, and let's be real, you're talking about something with your friends, and the next thing you know, an ad for that item comes up. I'll say, oh, I have a baby shower to go to. I
Yep.
need to buy a baby gift. And then my whole feed is filled with baby gifts. So it's costing me a lot of money,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's deceptive, but it's there. Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay. So when we go to sign up for Stitch Sloth, we have a basic plan and an advanced plan. So just nuts and bolts, what do we get out of that? If I sign up for the free thing, we have a 14-day.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. It's free and there's limited, but then we also get to try the advanced for 14 days. That's kind of a cool thing.
Yes. So I wanted to set it up that way. And I did not want people to have to add their information, their name, address. Just wanted them to be able to sign up for free with a username, a password, and an email address. The reason that they don't just get automatically taken to the advanced system is because that is a paid paywall. So that has to be unlocked. So when you go there and you sign up for a free plan, you will be unlocked within 24 hours. I mean, generally you're unlocked within, sometimes it's a few minutes and sometimes it's a few hours, but within 24 hours that gets unlocked. That comes with an email that people should look out for because it gives them directions. If they've already been in the site, they might not realize that if they log out and log back in, now it's going to open up all of the tools for them to try and see. And some people, I think, have not done that, logged out and then logged back in, not seen the tools that were available and sort of thought like, I don't need to pay for this. There's nothing really here. So the free users sign on, they get the 2 weeks free that will be unlocked. Anybody who wants to try the advanced plan, which honestly, I like doing this myself with anything that I try that is a subscription. If I'm going to have the option of signing up and possibly using this site, I will pay, put in all of my information for the paid user. It's unlocked right away. You get 2 weeks. You will get notified when your trial is ending. We're not trying to, become like a gym membership where you're going to forget about it. We want you to use the system. We want people to use this system. I want people to love Stitch Sloth as much as I do. I have had such amazing feedback from the users who have been in there. I had a really great retention from the beta testers who ended up staying as paid users. And I just think that going in with your information and then just making the decision, you can always cancel within those 2 weeks.
Yeah. Cindy, what was that you were saying about, before we recorded, about notification? You were about getting notified about what's new. What was that?
So I'm not likely to log into something like this on a daily basis.
Mhm.
If I get notifications that tell me that, somebody's posted something new or made a comment about something I've posted, then I will go and look at it. And so you explained how I could do that.
Yes. So just like any other social media platform, on the social media end of it, you can follow people, like their posts, comment on, and with that, there's a notification section in the settings for every user. When you go into the notifications, you can choose, what do I want to be notified on? We have the What's Doing page. That's a really meaty section. That has trunk shows from your local L&S stores, trunk shows from your favorite designers, blog articles that I write, which I just find such a wonderful writing outlet for myself. And we have a fiber files talking about different fibers. I'm trying to build my stitch library. I think I have about 20 in there now. So you could get notified based on your settings anytime something's posted in the What's Doing section. It'll say a new stitch has been posted, or a new blog has been posted, or a new L&S store has been posted, anything like that. You can also choose to be notified when someone likes your projects, comments on your projects or your posts. And also you can get them. So on the bottom of that notification, there's a choice to have those notifications emailed to you. Everybody has a little bell at the very top by their profile picture where they could see their notifications when they're in there. But if you want to see them because you're not frequenting the site and you want to know, you could have those emailed to you. And that's just a quick toggle of a button.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks for that. I will go in and do that. And I do want to say that I have found the site very intuitive to use, but
Good.
your FAQs are really, really good.
Good. Thank
And
you. I wanted them to be.
yeah, so if I'd looked at a few of those, I mean, I fumbled around and I figured things out, but then when I went and looked at the FAQs in, exploring the site to get ready for this, I found that if I'd looked at those, it would have been a little easier.
Yeah. I was trying to get rid of any user frustration. So I tried to write comprehensive FAQs that would explain what's the difference between a quick post and a project, and, like just basic hints. I also started to record certain screen recordings of how to do certain operations. That's fallen a little bit by the wayside because I've been so busy with so many other tasks of keeping this site. I want to keep it juicy. I want to keep it fresh all the time so that it gives someone a reason to want to go to the What's Doing page and not just look at the projects that are on there. Because like I said, there are a lot of people in there who are just keeping things to themselves.
Yeah.
So if, let's say I wanted to post an event that my local Needlepoint chapter is having, how would I do
Yeah.
that?
So you could definitely email me and I would put it on the What's Doing page. There's a section for in-person Stitch events, the Stitch clubs. I have a section for Stitch clubs.
Yeah.
We have a section for virtual events. And then we're going to have Stitch Sloth exclusives, which I'm working with some needlepoint instructors in the industry to bring some classes to us. And another reason that will eventually be very, very much worth joining as a advanced member is those will be at the moment free to advanced users. And I believe that that is the model that I will continue as long as I can afford to do so. Free members will need to pay for those classes. So I don't know, let's say for argument's sake, we're having a beading class and we're going to charge $20 per free user to do it. Now, these will only be available to people who are members free or advanced of the platform. And those people will pay, well, 2 or 3 classes, and you might as well have had an advanced membership. So I'm really trying to incentivize people to become advanced members because I am so confident that this tool can really change people's needlepoint experience into a very organized, thorough experience.
Yeah, well, and just cost alone for the advanced, it's $72 a year if you pay for the year.
Yeah.
Basically, it's what you would pay for a TV, an Apple TV subscription or Paramount or any of those. Or I can
Yes.
use the tired cliche, it's what you pay every morning at Starbucks.
Yes, I actually was going to do a social media post that monthly is less than a cup of Starbucks coffee
There we go.
because it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
and a one-time thing, and $72. I mean, that's a good savings because what, $7.50 a month if you do it monthly. So do
Right.
the year. But
If you do it monthly, it's $90. If you do half year, it's also $90. But if you do the year, it's 72. And I, subscribe to, as I'm sure you do, many, many things. I subscribe, to every TV subscription you just said, and
Yep.
Audible. I'm an Audible audiobook listener these days while I'm stitching. So we're all paying for subscriptions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
We do. We
Yes,
do.
we
Yep.
do. Yep.
All right. So talk about you're in your infancy. And
Yes.
part of that to grow and to get what people like is feedback. So
Yes.
you want feedback and not, boy, I really like this. This was fun. I enjoyed it. Not that kind of feedback, but you want to know what people think, what they'd like to have, what they're using. You want hard feedback.
I really do. I really do. And when I say there are 2 things that are the most important thing to me. One is obviously user experience. I want everybody to go into that site and have a great experience, know what they're doing. And if they don't know what they're doing or if they can't find something, I want them to ask. We have support email. You will be emailed back within 24 hours. And I can guarantee that it will be a lot less than that. But my policy is 24 hours just in case, whatever. So that is, but really, my number one business model is customer service and customer support because there is so much lacking in that in the world today. And I feel that sometimes people are just sort of left to Google or find out the information on their own. So a great customer support experience is what I am aiming for. And that also, in turn, is me being the person who's emailing someone. If they cancel their subscription, you will get a personal email from me. You will. I've done it. People have dropped off, and I will ask them, what is it that we can do? What would you like to have seen? What didn't you see? What were you looking for? I had one user who went in for 24 hours as a yearly member, and she canceled. I still remember her name. And I wrote her an email saying, because she said, this wasn't what I thought it would be. And I thought that that was so vague. That was her response when she canceled. And I said, what did thank you so much for letting me know. What was it that you thought it would be? And I got no response. And then I waited about a week, and I emailed her again, and I said, hey, I really am looking for feedback. I need to know that I'm out there giving the right message to people that are looking for this type of site. I want to make sure that I'm well portrayed. The most important part of my website is that landing page. Go to the landing page. If you don't see what it is that you think it is, then I'm not doing a good job. So it's really important for me to get all kinds of feedback. I've gotten great feedback. I had one customer say, hey, I would love to be able to write down what LNS store I bought my canvas and what LNS store I bought my fibers from, because this particular user does not live near a needlepoint store. So we are instituting that, and that will be on site, hopefully push live by the end of the week, where you will be able to write where you got your canvas, where you got your fibers. So
that's an excellent little one right
Yes.
there, because so many of us, Cindy, you're in a desert, and I bought this fiber and I need more of it. Where did I get that from? Yep.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I do think, and I think it might have been Cindy who emailed me and said, have you thought about having cards and spools? Was that you, Cindy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really thought about it, and I said, that's really a great idea. And I wrote that down, and I have a whole arsenal of ideas. At this point, I need to get the inventory system working the correct way before I can institute more options. But a lot of the things that I buy are cards also. So
Yeah. Everything
Yeah.
on Rainbow Gallery is all on cards.
right. And I just count them as a skein right now.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
That's got to be an interesting challenge, and I'm sure at times frustration, when you set up a site like this and you've been through it a billion times and you've tested it with some people and you think you have it, and then you turn it loose and you find out all the things you didn't think of, or that never would have occurred to you. That must have been a period right there where you just go, wow, how could I miss these things? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I did try to think of everything, but like I said, I am a one-man show, and it's hard to think of it all. So, and that is why feedback for me is essential. I have a couple of, team members. Obviously, I have my project manager, who's fantastic, and he helps me work through certain things. But yeah, and just the fact that this is a technology piece. This is reliant on the web, and we had a big issue this weekend. I was actually away for the weekend, and I checked that site. I say I gave birth to a website this year, because this is, like you said, in its infancy stage. There are things that are going to break. People do get frustrated. I completely understand their frustration. So nobody is more frustrated than me than when something is not properly working on my site. And I was with my daughter in Baltimore, and I opened up my computer that morning, and lo and behold, my site was just spinning. It was down, and
Oh
it
no.
was Saturday, and people work Monday through Friday.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I contacted anyone and everyone that I could, and by Saturday night they were working on it, and by Sunday it was like partially up and it was back up. But it's challenging. It's challenging to make sure that it's all good.
Those things never happen when you're sitting in front of the keyboard with nothing but time on your hands.
Of course
Never.
not. Of
Yeah.
course not.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
Right.
always when you're at a restaurant with your daughter. Yeah, trying to enjoy
Yes.
a weekend every time.
Yes,
Guaranteed.
yes. I was helping her pack to move, and there we
Yep.
are, like packing boxes, and my site's down. And you know what? My family can tell you, I live, eat, breathe, sleep Stitch Sloth at this point in time. I
I'm
work
sure.
24/7. I really do. Someone said, "Are you getting any stitching in?" And I said, "Yes." Like, I put my computer down, I'll stitch, watch TV, pick the computer back up, do another task. So
Yep.
I try, but yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep. All right, Ilene. Wow, this is quite a thing. Now, people should go stitchsloth.com. That's where you
Yes,
sign up. Do not be, if you don't do painted canvas, do not be deterred. It's,
absolutely.
there's Cindy's got some counted canvas in there. There's at least one
Yes,
embroidery of some kind. It doesn't matter. Sign up, because this is a place where you can store your information, you can interact, and if you do cross stitch, put it in there, and get your friends to put it in, and then now you start to build that community. And
Right.
yeah,
yes,
but we all have. I mean, there's a whole Facebook group on organizing threads and projects, and
yes,
that question's asked 50 times a day. How do I do it? How do I do it? Well, here's a
Mm-hmm.
system for you right here to make
Right.
that
yes,
happen. Yep.
yes. I have a post that says, "What stitch is that?" Because that's what started it all.
Yep.
What stitch
Mm-hmm.
is that?
Yep.
Yeah,
That gets asked on the needlepoint sites all the time.
all the
What
time.
stitch is that? Or what stitch should I use? Or yeah.
All the time, all the time.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes,
Yep.
it does. Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Ilene, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stitchsloth.com. Yep.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Enjoyed it. Thanks for the time.
All
Thanks to
right.
everyone for
Thank
listening.
you. Thank you both. All
All
right.
right.
Bye bye.